Look, this isn't about magic. It's not about blind belief or just wishing for a better future. This is about the actual neuroscience of how your brain turns your intentions into real, tangible results. And it's about why, so often, the outcomes can look a whole lot like karma, even when they're not.
So, let's just get right to it. The big question that sits at the heart of all this. Is your future already written? Is it all just destiny or fate or some other force that's completely out of your hands?
A lot of people would say yes. They might point to something like karma, this idea that there's some kind of cosmic force out there keeping score. But what if the answer is much, much closer to home? Because here's what we're learning. The force that's shaping your life isn't cosmic. It's biological. It's your own brain's programming. And you're the one holding the keyboard.
Okay, so let's really dig into this. In our first section, the karma question, we're going to explore why our own brain's predictions can feel so much like unchangeable fate.
So take a look at this. It's a really fascinating contrast. On one side, you've got the popular idea of karma. It's all based on morality, right? A cosmic force judging good versus bad. But your brain? It doesn't operate on morality. It's a biological machine that responds to what you give it. Repetition, focus, and clarity. It literally doesn't care if your thoughts are good or bad. It only cares what you repeat. And the scientific process behind this is called predictive coding. Now, it sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Your brain builds a working model of reality based on everything you've ever experienced. Then it uses that model to predict what's going to happen next. And here's the crucial part. Your brain treats its own predictions as if they're real. So if you expect to fail, it starts preparing for failure. If you expect an opportunity, it starts scanning the horizon for it. So in a way, those ancient concepts like karma or manifestation, they weren't necessarily wrong. They were just early, intuitive attempts to describe a powerful biological effect that we can now explain with neuroscience. They saw what was happening, and now we finally understand how it happens.
And that brings us to our second section, your brain's command center. Let's go meet the physical architect of your future. And that architect is your prefrontal cortex. You can think of it as the CEO of your brain. It's in charge of setting goals, controlling your focus, planning for the future, and, this is a big one, helping you delay impulses so you can actually stay on track with those long-term goals.
Now, when you use your prefrontal cortex to hold a sustained focus on a goal, you are sending a powerful signal to the rest of your brain. It's like shouting, "Pay attention to this! This is important!" Your brain then becomes this incredibly efficient filter, amplifying anything related to your goal and just tuning out all the irrelevant noise.
And get this isn't just some abstract idea. It's a physical change. That focused attention literally strengthens the neural connections related to your goal. You are physically reorganizing your brain's wiring to make that goal easier and more automatic to achieve.
This is exactly why visualization is so incredibly effective for athletes and performers. When you mentally rehearse an action, like shooting a free throw or giving a speech, your brain activates many of the same circuits it would if you were actually doing it. Your brain just doesn't draw a hard line between imagination and preparation. You're literally priming your nervous system for success.
But the brain's structure, the wiring, that's only half the story. When your prefrontal cortex sets a goal, it needs to signal the rest of your body to actually get moving. And that signal? It comes in the form of chemical fuel. Which brings us to Section 3, the chemistry of expectation.
Let's look at two of the key players here. First, there's dopamine. Think of it as the go signal. It's not really about pleasure. It's the chemical of motivation, effort, and persistence that drives you toward a goal. Then, on the other side, you've got cortisol, the stop signal. This is your main stress chemical that, when it's running high, can lead to fear and even paralysis.
And if you want a perfect example of this in action, just look at the placebo effect. This phenomenon is proof that belief alone, the pure expectation that something will work, is enough to trigger real, measurable changes in your body's chemistry, from reducing pain to boosting your immune response.
And of course, the reverse is also true. Being stuck in a loop of fear and negative thinking floods your system with cortisol. This doesn't just feel bad, it biologically blocks your progress. High cortisol levels have been shown to reduce your ability to learn, to impair focus, and to actively inhibit your pursuit of long-term goals. Your progress stops, not for some spiritual reason, but for a very real biological one.
So if our brains can be programmed like this, can we become the programmers? The answer is a definitive yes. And that brings us to our final and most actionable section, how to rewire reality,
a practical blueprint for changing your brain.
The core principle that makes all of this possible is neuroplasticity. This is your brain's absolutely incredible, lifelong ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. Your brain isn't this fixed, static organ. It is constantly being shaped and reshaped by your thoughts and actions.
And the blueprint for directing this whole process is surprisingly simple. First, you choose a clear focus. That's your intention. Second, you take consistent action toward it, no matter how small those actions are. And third, you reinforce that new pattern through repetition. It's the consistency that builds the new neural pathways, not just wishful thinking.
And let's be crystal clear about something. This is not passive positive thinking. This is active mental regulation. It's the practice of observing your thoughts without getting swept away by them, so you can stop reacting blindly and start choosing your responses deliberately.
So, as we wrap this all up, let's circle back to where we started. Your future is not written by some external force like karma.
It is actively being shaped every single day by the predictions and priorities of your own nervous system. Day in and day out, your brain is running a continuous loop. It predicts what will happen based on your past, it filters your present to match that prediction, and it reinforces whatever you repeat. What we so often call fate is really just trained attention and ingrained habit. So, the crucial point is this. Your thoughts may not be magic, but they are absolutely instructions. They are the daily blueprints you hand to your brain. And that leaves just one final question. What are you building today?